All right, good morning, everyone, and thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to be a part of this year's second Tennessee Sustainable Spirits webinar entitled Sourcing Local Ingredients for Spirits Production. This webinar is being put on by the Tennessee Sustainable Spirits Program in collaboration with UT Extension's Institute of Agriculture and Harding House Brewing Company. My name is Caleb Powell, and I'm an environmental scientist for the Office of Sustainable Practices at TDEC, and I will be hosting the webinar today for our wonderful speakers. Just to let everyone know, a couple housekeeping items. Everybody is muted upon entry to reduce the amount of background noise, but if you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to ask those in the chat box, and I will work on asking those to our speakers. And we really do hope that I think that a live presentation, a live webinar, one of the big benefits is being able to ask questions over what has been presented. So, please, if you have any questions at all for anybody, please send those in the chat box. And so what I'm doing right now is I'm going to send it a chat to everybody. So everyone should have received a chat from me, just showing where the chat box is. And then if you'll see there's a send to in a little drop down box, make sure that it either says all panelists or host. Make sure that the word host is in some choice that you choose. That way I'll be able to see the question and then I'll ask that to our speakers whenever we get to the question and answer. And then also if you're having any audio issues, not able to see something, you can just choose host, send me that message, and I can work on helping you out in troubleshooting through that. So just to give an overview of what is going to be covered today, you might have all I'm sure that you all have read our little overview, but I'm just going to go over that. Beer, wine, and distilled spirits are agricultural products born out of ingredients local to the producer. With access to ingredients from around the world, it is sometimes hard to find local ingredients. This webinar will discuss how spirits producers can source local ingredients. And we have Rachel Painter with UT Extension Center for Profitable Agriculture, and she's going to be discussing sourcing local ingredients. And then Nate Underwood of Harding House Brewing Company will talk about the brewer's perspective on sourcing those ingredients. So first, I'm going to pass it on over to the mind behind our Tennessee Sustainable Spirits Program, Mark Valencia. He is an environmental scientist for TDEC's Office of Sustainable Practices, and he's also the program manager for our Tennessee Sustainable Spirits Program. So without further ado, I will pass it on over to you, Mark.
Awesome. Thank you, Caleb. Again, thanks everyone for jumping on and joining us for this webinar. Again, this is the second webinar of the year. With the Sustainable Spirits Program, we like to try to host about 2 webinars and a workshop every year. So the workshop should be coming up here in the end of September. We're still working out the details for that. Once again, my name is Mark Valencia. I'm with the Office of Sustainable Practices within the Department of Environment and Conservation. A quick overview of sustainable practices, who we are, what we do. The brief intro I like to tell everybody is we are one of the limited non-regulated organizations within TDEC. So I like to start off by saying we're not in the business of telling anyone what to do. Well, we're here to work with any individual organization who likes to go above and beyond regulatory compliance. So that's our main focus, or working with people who just want to go above and beyond that. Quick little background of some of the work we do within sustainable practices. Our group is broken down into 3 different divisions. We all work across the board, but we like to separate it out to see exactly what we do. So we work on the business side, community, and state, institution, and government. So the state, institution, and government, I kind of say is the boring stuff. That's the back of house stuff where we try to work with government and organizations back of house. So it's not the outward facing stuff that we do. So we're trying to improve recycling and waste management within state government and things like that. Business team is where the Sustainable Spirits Program is housed, along with a bunch of other exciting programs like our Get Food Smart TN program, which we usually do a food waste awareness a week event, and usually Sustainable Spirits is involved in that with Bread to Tap, where we like to try to promote reducing food waste by still keeping that food in the human consumption circle. So, using day-old bread and actually incorporating that into a beer recipe, or using other kind of sugar sources for distilling and winemaking. Tennessee Green Star Partnership is much like the Sustainable Spirits Program, which I'm going to do a quick background on here in a second. That is a way to recognize large production facilities within the state that are going above and beyond regulatory compliance. On the community side of things, this is where we work with schools, local communities. We have several grant programs. So we have the Tire Environmental Act program. So if anyone on here is interested in using tires and recycling tires and turning it into a new usable product, reach out to us. We give out grants for that. So the Tennessee Sustainable Spirits Program is a voluntary program that assists wineries, wine growers, breweries, and distilleries in increasing sustainability by promoting best practices, providing technical assistance, and developing relationships. So with this next slide, I'm just going to give you some of the benefits of becoming a member for any brewery, winery, or distillery, or any alcoholic beverage producer within the state. So, benefits to becoming being part of this program is, you get free use of this great logo we've created on the right of the screen. So, we give promotional items with this logo, so organizations can either post this in their tap room or, proudly display it on their products. We do website recognition, so if you ever go to our website, we have an interactive map that shows where all of our members are and some of the sustainable practices that are currently incorporating at their facility. In addition to the website, we have a ton of resources on there, whether you're a home brewer, you're a producer, or even if you're just an individual interested in learning about what to look for in a sustainable producer. We also develop some articles from time to time. We have technical assistance, so we'll go more in depth into that in a bit, but with membership, we provide free technical assistance to our members. And every year we have new member recognition events. So this is in the end of September. Usually this goes along with our workshop. So we'll host a workshop and we'll recognize all our new members. From time to time, we will do a press release on our new members. And in the past, we've had local media pick up on it and do stories. I know a few years ago, the Weathers channel actually picked up, so they did a national segment on the Sustainable Spirits Program and its members. And again, we already covered online resources. Here's an example of some of the promotional items we make for our members. So on the bottom right, when I was talking about the tires, so that is a coaster made out of recycled tire rubber with the Sustainable Spirits logo on it. In the middle of that screen, that is a window cling, so new members can probably display that on the windows or in the taproom storefronts. And then on the bottom left is actually a bottle hanger. So these are designed to hang on the neck of any type of bottle, whiskey, wine, beer. And it's made out of seed paper. So when you're done using this product, you can actually put this piece of paper that's embedded with wildflower seed and herbs and put it in your garden. So the product doesn't generate that much waste. Membership can be obtained by fulfilling a range of sustainability requirements. So in a couple more slides, I'll show you a checklist that we have. So the checklist has 49 elements on it. A member has to meet a minimum of 25 of those items listed on the checklist. And this checklist is designed to just walk through your facility, check off of what you got going on at your facility. And it covers anything from water conservation, air, water pollution, waste reduction, and community involvement. The application process is pretty simple. There's two main pieces of paper you have to fill out and turn in digitally, and that is our application and our checklist, and the checklist we'll go over again later. In addition to that, we do require that you submit your annual production and utility data, and this is a way for us to create a use ratio, so we can show each individual organization, for example, it may take you 5 gallons of water to produce a gallon of beer, or this many kilowatt hours to produce a barrel of your product. This is a way to normalize the data and establish a baseline for you, and then we can actually show these data and compare you to national and international averages of organizations at your size or even bigger. It's a great way to show where you stand amongst your peers. So we need to get that data, we need to get the checklist, we need to get the application. After we get those items, we will review the application, data in the checklist, and verify everything's on there with what we need. And then, because we're part of TDEC, we do have to do an internal compliance check to make sure there's nothing outstanding regulatory-wise within your organization. And if there is, you can't become a member at that time, but we will work with you and get you into contact with the right people to get you back into compliance where you can become a member. Our Office of Sustainable Practices also houses the Small Business Environmental Assistance Program, and they provide free confidential technical assistance and help for any business looking to make sure they're working through the regulatory compliance issues they may have. So again, we're not in the business of stitching, and we have an avenue for small businesses to work with us to get into compliance, or if they even have any questions and they're iffy about asking, you're provided free confidential information on that. So once we do that compliance check, we can do an on-site visit, and this is us actually going to your facility. We go over that checklist with you, and then we'll walk through your facility and verify what you got going on. And usually we find items that you didn't check off that you probably are already doing, and we usually end up finding ways to add more checks to your checklist. In addition to that, I'll make some observations of your facility in terms of being able to write a sustainability report with you. So once we get that on-site visit and we verify everything on the checklist and you're ready to move on to acceptance in the program, we'll write a sustainability report. And in that report, that will cover, the data that we discussed. We'll establish a baseline. We'll compare it to other data. We'll go over the checklist, mention everything that you're doing, and we also will list off areas of opportunity. So this will be recommendations we make. Again, these are only recommendations. You're more than welcome to do whatever you like with them. You can pursue them. If not, that's perfectly fine. And if you ever do want to pursue any of the recommendations we make, we can do some of that initial legwork of technical assistance and show you what is actually involved to pursue any of the recommendations we make. So when you get that sustainability report, you also get a letter of acceptance into the program. So that is the program in a nutshell of processes. Here's the checklist. So there's 4 pages to the checklist. These are the first 2 pages, but if you look at it, it may be hard to see, but I'm just trying to show how simple it is. It's literally just print these pages out, go to your facility, check off what you got going on. So it covers water, air, waste, energy, sourcing of ingredients and packaging material, community involvement, and maintenance. So it's pretty broad. Some of the next steps that we got going on with the Sustainable Spirits Program, we're always looking to increase membership. So if you're ever interested, feel free to reach out to us anytime. If you have any questions, we're more than welcome to talk to you all about it. And if you ever want us to come out, we're more than willing to go out and take a look at what you all got going on. We're always looking for feedback from our members and stakeholders. So if you have any ideas, we'd love to hear it. We're always trying to add to our resources for members. So if you have any ideas, recommendations, or some pretty cool resources, we'd love to look at it. Currently, we're developing a value stream mapping program, and we'll have that on the website for organizations to see what's involved with that. And I have a quick little graphic I can show you in the next slide explaining what value stream mapping is. We do an intern every year, so I'm part of the MTSU's Academic Advisory Board for the Fermentation Science Program. So every year we take an intern, usually in the summer. So if you're looking for internship opportunities, we usually take one in the summer. One other note I'd like to note before we go to the next slide is we've been working closely with the EPA and their Energy Star program, and they've just announced a new Energy Star program for distilleries. So we've been working closely with them on developing EPIs and developing what's involved to become an Energy Star member, and now they have one specific to distilleries. So if you're ever interested in that, reach out to me or EPA and they can get you some additional information on that. So when I was discussing value stream mapping, this is a way to look at your processes. I'm not going to say grain to glass in this particular example. This is just mainly grain to right before you get to the fermenter. But I was just trying to show some of the quick steps. So say you get grain delivered to your facility. We got to move that grain from the truck somehow to a silo. So there's usually an electric motor involved augering or moving that grain into a silo or some storage container. This isn't applicable to everybody, but I'm trying to show quick little basic steps. So we know the details on our electric motors. There's usually a standard plate on it telling you everything you need to know about that electric motor. So if you have that information and you know how long it takes to move that product from truck to silo, we can start mapping out all your processes and how much it costs you, how much energy it takes. So maybe we can go to another process where you got water coming in, you have gas heating up this liquid, you have an electric motor stirring that. So we know all these details, we know the outputs and inputs, we can start mapping out what exactly is going on. And this is a way to identify areas of opportunity in your processes and ways to identify what is consuming the most utilities, resources, costs for you as well. So that is the Sustainable Spirits program in a nutshell. I wanted to go fairly quick because I want to give the most time we can to our presenters today.
Thanks, Mark. So we are going to pass it on over to Rachel Painter. I'm going to give a little bit of a background on her, and then she's going to talk about sourcing local ingredients and craft beverages in Tennessee. So Rachel is a value-added agriculture marketing specialist with UT Extension's Center for Profitable Agriculture. She earned her bachelor's and master's degree in agriculture and resource economics from the University of Tennessee at Knoxville. Before joining the center, she served for 5 years as an extension agent in Rutherford County, specializing in residential and consumer horticulture. She provides leadership to the center's programs pertaining to farmers markets, specialty crops including cut flowers and fruits, craft beverages, social media, and direct marketing. She helps farms analyze and develop marketing strategies to improve their farm income. So we're excited to have Rachel on here. I'm going to pass over the presenting capabilities to you, Rachel, and the floor is yours.
Thank you. So welcome everyone. Thank you, Caleb, for that introduction. And I hope that if you are interested in this topic at all, that hopefully you've seen some of the programs that we've done so far. And if not, then please go ahead and email me after today so that we can put you on our list so that you receive information about these types of topic programs. Again, my name is Rachel Painter, and I work for UT, the Institute of Agriculture, and part of that is UT Extension. If you are unfamiliar with UT Extension, I'm going to share a little bit about that with you today. And I see we do have at least one of our Extension agents on the call today with us. But if you are not familiar with Extension, then hopefully by the end of our time here today, you will be, and you will feel comfortable reaching out to your local Extension agent. So I work for the Center for Profitable Agriculture. There's an Extension office in every county in our state with your local Extension agents. They are ready to help you. And then we also have specialists across the state that specialize in different topic areas. So we have production specialists. They might focus on commercial vegetable production. They might focus on commercial fruit production. They might focus on, crops, row crops, anything under the sun. We have a specialist typically for that topic. So again, I work for the Center for Profitable Agriculture, and we focus on value-added agriculture, typically marketing or financial analysis. So again, I help our farmers across the state explore marketing opportunities, evaluate if they should change their marketing strategies or implement different marketing strategies. We have a website, cpa.tennessee.edu. I hope you'll go check that out and see what we have there for you. We also have Facebook and Instagram, of course. And here's some of the topic areas that you might see us cover. So again, I cover farmers market managers and vendors across the state. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out about that. Anything that is value added. Now, if you're not sure what that means, value-added agriculture is the processing, packaging, or promotion of a product or service to earn a greater portion of the consumer expenditures. So what does that mean? It simply means that you are a price maker instead of a price taker. That means that you are trying to sell something that is not a commodity. So a commodity would be like our meats that are going, to a market and selling livestock at a market instead of selling retail meat. Or you are selling row crops that are going to a grain elevator, and you're taking a price. So there's a set price for a particular quantity and quality, and so you're taking that price. If you are not taking that price, you're trying to set your own price, and you're trying to gather information about the market so that you can set your price appropriately and meet consumer demands. So again, some of those might be selling at a farmer's market. It might be another form of direct retail. It might be making a product from that initial product. So you might have tomatoes and you might make salsa, you might have fruit and you might make a pie, something like that. You might be an agritourism operation and you're allowing people onto your farm for an experience, or you might be, again, selling anything direct that's value added. So again, you have a local extension agent in your county, and you can find them at utextension.tennessee.edu, and you can learn more about our programs. So these are just our agriculture program topic areas, our focus areas there on the screen. We also have Family and Consumer Sciences, which is called FCS. We have a lot of acronyms, and so your FCS agents are going to teach classes on canning or healthy living, exercise, all of those types of things for a healthy lifestyle. And then we have our 4-H youth development agents, which are probably what you're most familiar with. So 4-H goes into the schools. They also have after-school programs ranging from, anything from archery, canning, sewing, cooking, the list goes on. So again, if you're not familiar with Extension or plugged into your Extension office, please go ahead and get familiar with them. Reach out to say, hey, I'm not very familiar with Extension. I want to see what you do and what programs that I can get involved in. They're always looking for volunteers, especially for youth programs. So that's another opportunity for you if you want to give back to your community. Specifically revolving around craft beverages, we do have a work group of Extension and other governmental people that are involved. So here you can see on the screen our work group. So we meet pretty regularly to discuss topics surrounding craft beverages in Tennessee, specifically trying to get more agricultural local ingredients into those beverages. So we host Tennessee Farm and Ferment annually now. So we have had 2 of these so far. Our next one is January 8th in 2024, and that is a Monday. So please go ahead and put that date on your calendar. More information will be coming out soon, and it is on farmandferment.org. So that's a website you can go and check in on. You can also sign up for our emails so that you get information about that as soon as registration opens up. So again, here's all of our extension folks that are involved in this work group until we get down to Bruce Kirksey at AgriCenter International in Memphis. They have some crop trials for barley and hops, and then Mike Brown with TDA, Carol Reed with the Tennessee Corn Growers Association, Laura Swanson with Wine Growers Alliance, Charity Toombs with the Distillers Guild, and Sharon Cheek with the Craft Brewers Guild. So we all, again, meet regularly to discuss what you all need, what our farmers need, what our beverage producers need, and how we can help fill those gaps. Now I'm going to have Nate Underwood join me. He is the co-founder and head brewer at Harding House Brewing Company in Nashville. And there's Nate's email on the screen as well as mine. If you're not familiar with Nate, he is always seeking to find local ingredients and share the story of the local farmer. And throughout the presentation today, you'll see a lot of his photos of where he has actually been putting this topic into action at his brewery. So again, I'm going to have Nate join us here. And again, please feel free to jot down your emails and reach out. There's Nate.
Hey.
Okay, so to start with, what does it mean to source local ingredients and why might you be doing that? So consumer demand for local products is obviously increasing across the board from all kinds of industries. So that farm-to-table movement is just accelerating rapidly, and it's moving beyond the plate. So they're not just interested in eating local on their plate. They're interested in, drinking local as well. They're interested in ingredients in what they're putting in their skincare products, or maybe what they're cleaning their house with. And so that farm-to-table movement is definitely moving beyond the plate. So again, locally sourced products, no matter what that person is purchasing, they're typically looking for it to be locally produced. So again, that is definitely just a consumer trend across the board, and we're definitely seeing that come through in our beverages here in Tennessee. And most of our beverages are utilizing many crop inputs that could be sourced locally. Now there is some challenges, of course, that comes with that Nate and I will cover here in a minute. But the benefits of doing so is a shorter supply chain. So we've all been through COVID, and we know the issues with supply chain and those issues that can cause when that supply chain is lengthened, or there's more steps in that process to get it to the end consumer. And there's also a huge marketing opportunity in sharing that shorter supply chain means that they are getting something more locally produced, and that they are supporting the local economy more, and the environmental benefits of shortening that supply chain and transportation. So again, our consumers are very interested in those topics: environmentally friendly, locally produced, supporting local economies. And so the list goes on of topics that this kind of hits on that consumers are interested in. Again, there are some issues that we will cover, some challenges that comes with that, specifically communication, planning, and processing. So again, we are trying to address those questions and those issues and those challenges as well as possible. We're here. Any ideas and topics that you would like us to cover, please let us know. And again, here is one of Nate's photos of where they are trying to tackle that challenge locally, and they're sharing how they are doing that with their consumers. So Nate, you want to share about this flyer at all?
Yeah, so this flyer was an event that we did for the Craft Brewers Conference that was held here in Nashville back in May. That is the industry organization that sort of oversees the craft beer industry, independent brewers around the world, mainly in the United States, and it came here to our city, and we got to show off for the craft industry what was taking place in the brewing industry in Nashville and in Tennessee in general. And so we decided to host an event called Near Beer, Celebration of Place, and we invited other like-minded breweries across the country to come in and have a guest tap. We're focusing on putting local inputs into their beer to show that this movement is that it's really a movement, that it's not just happening here in Tennessee, but it's happening across the country, and that people are really interested and excited about local inputs in local beer, which is really, really cool. I think a big question that this event really answers is really the why. Like, why do we want to use local ingredients? And I think it gives an originality to the beverages that we make, which is really cool. I like to say in craft beer that the tagline is "Drink local." That's sort of the official motto of craft beer, but we found that brewers themselves were never actually buying local themselves. And so there's this huge irony running right down the middle of our industry, where we're asking our consumers, our patrons, buy local, but we ourselves, we're not doing what we're asking our customers to do. And so we really wanted to embrace that concept of drinking local. And so we wanted to start putting local ingredients into local beer. And by doing so, we support our community, and we get something original that can't exist anywhere else in the world, because the ingredients that we have here grow right here and they don't grow elsewhere. So a uniqueness to place, which is really cool.
Perfect. So again, as Nate said, this is going on, nationwide, and it's not just related to beer. Farm to Tap, which is an effort of the Tennessee Craft Brewers Guild for that local ingredient. So they have this logo in the upper right-hand corner. This is on Nate's website, creatively crafted, uniquely local, seasonally brewed. And again, they took it a step further and did a survey of their consumers, Farm to Tap survey, and you can go to their website, just at farmtotap.org, and see the results of that survey. I know it's pretty small here on this screen, but an overwhelming response from consumers about the interest in supporting local, drinking local, saying that they would even spend more on a beer that had included local ingredients. So again, there's a ton of overwhelming support for local ingredients and sourcing local from consumers. And again, as Nate said, if you can show that story, tell that story, and bring it through in the beer and in your tap room, then hopefully, again, we will meet those consumer demands for such. So some farmer opportunities. So speaking directly to farmers here in this instance, what would a brewer or a distiller or a winery owner, maker be interested in? So overall, of course, in more of our distilled products, we would typically see a lot of corn, barley even, rye, but then as well, hops coming into beer. Hops can also go into other beverage products as well, obviously. And then in all of them, we can see fruits, vegetables, and herbs, you know, coming into play. And that's really where I think the more unique beverages come into play, is those fruits and vegetables and herbs. And people are really making very unique or seasonal products. So here's an example. Nate, you want to share about your peach saison?
Yeah, so we have a seasonal series that we do throughout the year where we focus in on a local input into a saison style beer that we do. And the saison, you guys can read the description. I know it's tiny, but saison basically means season in French. And it's a style that has roots French-speaking part of Belgium into the southern part of Belgium, but really blank canvas for modern craft brewers to do what they want. And really more of a saison is really more of a philosophy than is or farmhouse, more of a philosophy than a defined style, but it's this idea that we interpret it as a way to see how we can showcase local ingredients within that beer. And so throughout the year, we use different seasonal fruits to highlight on that backdrop of that saison style. And so we have a strawberry saison, a peach saison, a persimmon saison, and it really rotates with the kind of fruits that we can get, what is in season. It uses 100% Tennessee grain. At Harding House, we use 100% local malt in every single beer. Every kernel of grain is either grown right here in Tennessee or it's grown right here in the southeast. And it's a commitment that we do, that we believe that the grain coming out of the Tennessee and the southeast region is unique, and we can show that we can make different styles with that grain. And we also, every single beer that we put on tap has some kind of local input to it. There's at least one Tennessee ingredient in every single beer that we brew. So the peach saison is all Tennessee grain and Tennessee peaches, which is really, really cool. So.
Yeah. So like Nate mentioned, some of those grains will have to be processed. So if you are a farmer, if you're trying to work with a farmer that is, for instance, growing barley, that will have to be malted, and we currently are taking most of that barley out of state, typically to North Carolina, to be malted. So depending on the input that you are seeking for your beverages, those might be where you would need to reach out directly to the farmer themselves and try to source those from them, or you might need to be working with a processing facility that would have that source locally. So again, depending on what you're trying to source, depends on who you might need to go to, but please feel free to reach out and let us know.
And I would say that grain is one of the easiest first steps into using something local, and that makes sense. Obviously, if you're making beer or whiskey or a liquor, grain is a really important part of what you're doing. The thing about Tennessee is that barley and rye and wheat grows really, really well here. If they're all winter, that means that they're planted in the fall to go through a hibernation in winter, and they grow in spring, and they're harvested in late spring, early summer. And it's really different than most of the barley or grain crops you see throughout the world that are usually spring planted and fall harvested. What that means is that by using local grain, we're using a grain that is very unique to our region it usually is chosen not to be grown in other parts of the world or the country. So, but because of that, we also give the farmers a second harvest, and it leads to better soil conservation as well, because they're keeping their fields covered with growing with plants during the winter, leading to less soil erosion, which is really cool as well. So.
Yeah. So some shared opportunities. So we just spoke directly about what the farmer could be providing, maybe diversifying their operation a little bit. Some shared opportunities for working together from a farmer and a beverage producer perspective is that you can obviously share a story. And if you know anything about marketing, you are trying to share a story always. So you can obviously come up with tons of different stories to share when you are working with a local farmer and a local beverage producer together. So we can come up with a lot of those. Again, we're going to share some here in a minute. We can also utilize seconds. So typically, if you were producing vegetables or fruits or even herbs, even some of these other products, some of those will be blemished or past ripe, and so those can be obviously processed because you're not trying to sell them looking beautiful and ready for consumers, because they typically aren't going to pick up something if it even has a tiny blemish on it. So again, this is a way to sell your seconds, maybe that blemished or past ripe fruit or vegetable, and that way it can go into a beverage product where that doesn't really matter that it was blemished. Another opportunity is a pickup location. So a lot of our beverage operations where they have, a great parking lot and they have customers already coming there, they will do a CSA or a subscription box pickup location. So that is becoming even more popular, and that is because a lot of your customers are the same. So the people that are looking to come and drink a local beer and have, this experience with their friends might not be able to go to the farmer's market, but they still want access to that produce from a local farmer. So this is a great way to kind of cross-market yourselves and reach those customers that happen to be the same for both of your operations.
Yeah, and CSA is really another good way is that as a brewery or distillery or winery, we are more than just our product. We are also our space. And so we also want to make sure that at Harding House, we're not only our product represents it's the land that it's brewed on, but also we want to our space is benefiting the local agricultural world as well. And so we've been working with SC Doc for the past 4 years as a CSA point. Cool thing is that he is one of our main suppliers of produce during the year. So people, when they pick up their CSA, when they get strawberries, like what you see right there, that is our SC Doctor's strawberry field. It's really cool. So they get to pick up the strawberries at their CSA, and then they can drink it in a beer in the tap room as well. And so it really connects the dots for those consumers, which is really, really cool. So.
Yes, that's a great opportunity, and like Nate mentioned, it's a great way to work with your farmers that are sourcing your ingredients by also providing them with that pickup location that gives an opportunity for the farmer to come to your tap room, to meet your customers, and again, they can put that face to the name that's on your bottle. And again, that goes beyond, just beer. That happens, of course, with wineries, distilleries as well. And again, that's a great way to show that you are a part of the community as well. So I know a lot of these tap rooms or tasting rooms are a great community space. So they're providing space for people to get to know each other and to build community and relationships. And so having that CSA pickup opportunity is, again, another way to show that you are a part of your community and, not just a bar. You are a part of a community space.
Yeah.
So some challenges that you would need to address is that many of our farmers, that are, been in this for a few years now at least, have an established marketing channel already. So that means that whatever they're producing, they already have a plan for how they're going to sell it, whether that be at a local retail store, at a farmer's market. They might already have a CSA program going on. So their quantity that they are producing is typically already sold, or they already know who their customer is. And they don't just have a large quantity sitting around ready to sell you when you're ready for it. So we are going to have to communicate and plan for the future. So if you're making a batch of beer, or if you're making a wine, you are typically looking for a large quantity of whatever you're seeking to source. So you will need to be communicating with those farmers what you need, how much you need, and working with them about when that would be ready for harvest. So how much do you need? Again, that would be determined by your tank space and the recipe, but typically that's going to be a larger quantity than they're seeking to produce just to try to sell direct to consumers. So you would, again, need to be working with them to share that quantity, and that might be years in advance. So some of these crops take 3 or 4 years to really have a good harvest. So again, you're not just going to be able to talk to a farmer and say, I need, 100 pounds of blackberries next week, right? They're going to have to plan in advance for that. So again, I want to say plan for the future. That's number one challenge probably. And then think about who will do the processing, or what kind of processing needs to happen. So again, if you're looking for a fruit or a vegetable, how does that need to be pureed? Does it need to be chopped up? Does it need to be turned into a different form? So again, who will be doing that? Who is paying for that? And when does that product change hands? Does it change hands as soon as it's delivered to your doorstep, or are they doing the processing, but that's another step? Or is someone else doing the processing? So who owns it? If something goes wrong, if those strawberries sit on a truck out in the sun for 3 hours and now they're ruined, then whose fault was that, and who has to pay for them? So again, that's some payment terms, and let's try to think about getting this in writing. So I know all of us like to just do some handshake deals, but let's go a step further. If they are growing that large of a quantity for you, we need to understand payment terms. When are you going to pay? How are you going to pay? And all of those things, and let's discuss that. So again, I know some of us are typically used to working with that when we're buying things from a company. We're sourcing ingredients, a bag of pureed, this or that. Try to think about this the same and coming up with those payment terms with your farmers in those same terms that you would with another company.
Yeah, it's a comment on this. I think planning is really, really important. I think, as we know as producers, whether it's winemaking, liquor, or beer, it's not you make it and it's ready the next day. Sometimes with liquor it takes years. Sometimes wine takes years, and even with beer it can take years to develop before you actually release it. And a lot of these farmers that you're working with do have those established distribution channels. The story that we actually did this year was I really wanted to brew a beer with parsnips, and so I worked with farmer Jesse with Athena's farm down near Santa Fe, Tennessee, and I developed a relationship with him at the farmer's market, and he said that we planned on him planting parsnips for us this winter. So those are usually planted in the fall. They're overwintered, and so we got to use them this spring to brew a beer with parsnips, which is an interesting ingredient for beer, but it adds another really cool element to what we're doing. So working with him and planning out that specific ingredient was a fun process that we got to really work with him and getting a unique ingredient that is not typically grown in quantities that we can use for a beer, which is really cool. And I think Rachel mentioned the processing. It's a huge thing. my brew hands, they do not like harvest season. They are always cutting up fruit or vegetables or whatnot. Spencer is on this call from Brewing, adding it to a beer. And I think when brewers or producers first get into sourcing local, there is extra work in sourcing local. Unfortunately, we're used to clicking on a website and getting things delivered to our front door, but when you are into this local foodway, things are not as processed as they are with other ingredients, and so there are extra steps in order to make those ingredients usable for the beer or for whatever you're using it for. So that processing deters a lot of people into entering in ingredients, unfortunately, but it's learning how to work with those and learning the parameters of what you can do. Another big thing with processing is that with breweries, we want a very sterile aseptic environment. So we want a single culture yeast to ferment this beer, and that's it. Because when you work with a farm where you are usually going to get these ingredients, they're coming directly from a farm. They are not coming from a factory or a sterile, kitchen or whatnot. And so because of that, these fruits and vegetables have all the living microbes that are already on them. And so with brewing beer, and there's an extra element of risk, I guess you say, in using these ingredients. Part of brewing local is embracing that flora that exists on these products. On the previous slide, we showed the strawberry providential. That is a mixed culture beer, meaning that there's more than one species of microbe fermenting that beer. When you brew local, you're sort of forced into brewing certain styles of beer in order to mitigate that risk of infection from the raw ingredients that you're getting directly from the farm. And so instead of being anxious about it, it's better to basically get these microbes already in. So that's why that farmhouse style is such an easy style to add local ingredients into, because the flavor expectation style really lends itself for those in case there's any kind of risk of infection or whatnot. So there are a lot of unexpected. There are, when a brewer or producer is getting into using local, there are some extra steps that have to be thought about before using those ingredients. Which is why I like to say the easiest ingredient to use local is going to be grain. Usually you're going to be working with a maltster, and usually in that process, it's a lot easier to input or substitute out 2 row base malts than adding a strawberry to beer. So
yes. And we do hope to have some sessions on that at the Pick Tennessee conference. So like Nate mentioned, brewing with those fruits aseptically is a very big deal. And so we will have some topics on that again at the Pick Tennessee conference. If you're not familiar with that, then that is in February each year at the Franklin Marriott. And so you can look that up again about the second week of February every year. And we'll have some sessions on brewing or making any craft beverages with fruits specifically. All right, some other challenges for producers and beverage farmers and beverage producers to tackle together is how will you market the story? So not every farmer is trying to sell direct to consumer. Sometimes the ones that are growing a large enough quantity for you to include that in your beverage aren't actually selling direct to consumer. So they might be selling wholesale, they might be selling to large grocery store chains, they might be a grain producer. Again, those typically aren't selling direct to consumer at all, but there still is value in sharing that local story. So again, how will you share that story? Are they interested in connecting with the consumer or not? Are they someone that is selling direct to consumer already or not? And so again, just being clear on how you plan on sharing that story. So as you saw on Nate's, he says on there 100% local grain. He might share, out loud somewhere about that farmer, but he's not going to put as much information about that farm and who it's from, because again, at that point it's been malted or something like that before it goes into his beverage can or his bottle. So again, he's not typically trying to share how they can just show up at that farm if it's a grain, instead of maybe if he were working with a fruit producer that also offers agritourism opportunities on their farm. So you would market those very differently if you're trying to help that farmer share their story and find customers or not. So again, just communicate how you plan on marketing the story, and so that you can both know what to expect in the end.
Very partially important where you can really utilize your staff at the point of sale. So big thing that we say is that our staff is our company. On to communicate what we're doing as a brewery to our customers. So yeah.
Yes. So now we just have 3 ideas. I know we're kind of running close on time at this point. So we have 3 big picture ideas. Of course, there's tons of other ideas that you can see out there. Nate and a lot of the other guys across the state, some of us on the call, are already implementing these things. But just so that you can start wrapping your head around how this could work on your local level, here are some ideas. So number 1 is just a festival or an event with a local farm that you're sourcing local from. So if you are sourcing tomatoes, for instance, this one's kind of a little bit far-fetched for some of you, but if you were sourcing tomatoes, for instance, so you could have the local farm there that is selling their whole tomatoes, the ones that are unblemished. The seconds, the ones that had some blemishes or maybe went a little bit past ripe, could be included in your beverage, and you could have those for tastings, different types of cocktails maybe, and then you could have vendors selling tomato-related items. People go crazy for some tomato things around here. Fried green tomatoes to eat, some kind of tomato pie. So of course you could take this, as far as you want to. Farmers markets have tomato festivals all the time, and so again, you could kind of bring that theme to your operation as well. Obviously, tomatoes probably wouldn't work for some of you, but this could be implemented with any kind of input. So you could have a watermelon, you could have a strawberry festival, you could have a lavender festival, you could make any kind of festival ever. You could have a corn festival. It doesn't really matter what your input is, but focusing in on one of those ingredients and really making a theme out of it and making an entire event surrounding that topic area and bringing in customers, again, to reach that farmer and your product as well as others. So again, it can be pretty easy to find some of those specific producers if you start looking, and just create a small little theme or a large one, it doesn't matter, but trying to really focus in on one of those topics works pretty well when marketed in that way. So Nate, you want to share a little bit about blackberry or peaches or any of those type of things?
So where we have peaches on the other it's called farmhouse that we do. So with each one of those releases, we'll usually have a strawberry celebration or a blackberry celebration, and we do those every year. Our strawberry celebration is usually in June. our pairing this year is going to be in a couple weeks in August, where we actually work with Cultivate Farms, who's right here in Nashville, Tennessee, on the TA headquarter grounds over in Creve Hall, and we're having them come out, sell blackberries, selling cut flowers, and then we're also having a food pop-up that are using the local blackberries in their new concept, and then we're having a curated line of blackberry beer. So we have a blackberry sour, a blackberry saison, and then a blackberry grisette that is a mixed ferment beer as well, along with a follow release. So it's a really cool way to celebrate that ingredient and connect your customers to that ingredient, which is really, really cool. So.
Yes. And Nate already mentioned how his crew goes out and picks or harvests, or they are chopping up vegetables or fruits. So again, another idea is to take your crew out to the farm, document, have the farmer teaching your crew about production, video that. Of course, people love watching that on Instagram or TikTok. And, you know, again, document yourselves out on the farm, and then also the opposite of that, have the farmer in the tap room with you all as you're creating that beer and document that as well. So this is a great way to just show that cross-education and collaboration and showing your team out there. So again, this is tenfold out at a lavender farm, getting some lavender to make cocktails. So they were actually harvesting, the farmer is teaching him how to harvest lavender on a large scale. And, you know, have your t-shirt on or a shirt from your company, so Tenfold has their shirt on. So again, make a you know, day of it and make it a fun way to have that collaboration take place. So I know Nate does this all the time, we'll move on, but you can go see their Instagram from Harding House and see all of their picking parties or harvest crews happening. So another idea is, again, the farmer in the tasting room, educational, ticketed events. You could even have a chef teaching a class about making something to eat or something to pair with a cocktail or, you know, a beer or anything like that, wine, and teach them how to make that with that ingredient. They can make the actual cocktail or they can make a food. So again, have the farmer there to meet them. People love authenticity, so that is one of the top 5 marketing trend words, authenticity and transparency. And so having that farmer there in the tap room where the customer can actually meet them, see their face, and hear about production, or just, again, just meeting them, just seeing them as a person really makes it real to your customer. So, getting started. So these are your first steps to get started. So number 1, understanding seasonality, what will be in season when, and planning ahead is very important, as we've already said. And if you're not sure what's in season when, again, Nate said something about June and strawberries. So we can help you understand that. The farmer themselves can help you understand that. There's some charts. The Tennessee Craft Brewers Guild has made seasonality charts. The Farmers Market Association also has seasonality charts for you out there as well. I'm happy to send you those. Number 2 is build relationships with local farmers. So there's tons of ways that you can connect with your local farmers. If you're not sure how, we can help you do that. And again, there's some resources online as well. There's the Pick Tennessee Product Platform, which is a marketing platform for farmers. Typically, those are the ones that are already selling direct-to-consumer, though, so there are some that are not selling direct-to-consumer that are not listed on that platform. That could also be a source for you as well. So again, reach out to me, your local extension agent, and we can help you. Number 3, be adaptable. So I'll let Nate share a little bit about this number 3 one, be adaptable.
Yes. So because we're working with farm, because we're working with ingredients that are coming directly from nature, and as we know, nature doesn't always bend to the will. Nature does its own thing. I mean, every season it's gonna be different. Like this year, we had a warming in February, and then we had a frost, a regular frost that we have at the end of February and March. That led to a lot of peach and blackberry blossoms blooming early, and that frost really hampered for those, get off those blooms. That means a lot of local stone fruit producers lost a lot of their crops. So because of that, you really have to be adaptable in the way that you use and the way that you work with the ingredients, and that's why understanding how things grow and having relationships with your farmers is so important because things change. For instance, the hop harvest season is anywhere from August to September, and they are picked in order to be the freshest hot as possible. That means you need to be communicating with the farmers and being adaptable when that timing is. Like for this year, there's a really rough start. Our top-grade producer had a really low crop because of the weather that we had earlier in spring and late winter. I reached out to Rachel saying, "Hey, do you know any other blackberry farmers that we can source from at these quantities?" And so being adaptable and understanding how farming works is really, really important to that process of joining into those local foodways.
Yes. And number 4 is just to share that story. So document the entire process, again, from the sourcing of it to harvesting it, and then sharing that story of connecting with a local farmer. So again, share that story all the way through. Let the farmer share the story, you yourself share the story, and get your customers involved in understanding that entire process as much as possible. So again, Nate does that on his label, they do that on their social media, they do that on their website. It's everywhere that they communicate with their customers. Okay, so I always end presentations with a challenge. So today I want you to consider what inputs you are putting into your beverages and which ones of those that you want to try to source local. So try to find some farmers that might be producing those products in your area. Again, we're not switching over our recipes tomorrow or anything like that, but if you can just start thinking about what could I be mixing into my recipe that I could be sourcing local, I think that's the first step. And then within this month, try to reach out to a local farm and discuss cross-marketing opportunities. So again, that doesn't have to mean that you are even changing your source or sourcing local at that point. You could just help promoting each other's events. You could help host an event together. You could share their social media post on yours and say, this is a local farm that we love and support. Whatever that can look like for you. But just try to start connecting with a local farm. I think that's the beginning stage of that relationship, is just try to start connecting with them, understanding what they do and when things are in season. So those are your 2 challenges that we leave you with today. And again, here's our information. Our emails are on the screen. You can also find us online as well, both of our websites, again, cpa.tennessee.edu, and then Harding House Brewing Company, comes right up as well. So again, go and check out our website, see what we're sharing, and we hope that you'll reach out if you have any questions. I think now it is time for questions, so I'll hand it back over to Mark and Caleb. If we've had any questions come through, we're happy to answer those.
Yeah, we had a couple come through. I know that we're about 3 minutes over, so trying to be cognizant of everyone's time. What I might do is I might just take these questions, get those answered with you guys, and then in the follow-up that I send either this afternoon or tomorrow, have those questions answered just to, just to be respectful of everyone's time. I did really like someone put in the chat that they said that I wanted to mention this. It says, I like the realization, drink local, but if you're not sourcing local, and so like that realization is really, really cool and something I didn't think about, because I feel like a lot of craft brewers and local distilleries, wineries, breweries are talking about drinking local, but are you sourcing local? So I think that that's a really cool realization, and somebody in the audience mentioned that, so I wanted to put that out there. Like I mentioned before, well, first off, I just wanted to say thanks, Mark, for all the work that you do with the Sustainable Spirits program here in the state. Rachel and Nate, you guys, thank you so much for this presentation. I think it really brought a lot of good information about local sourcing and farmers and using produce that's close to you. And so appreciate all the work that all of you guys do, and appreciate you taking the time to present on that important topic. I wanted to also thank all the audience for registering for these webinars. We couldn't do them without having an audience, so we appreciate everyone registering and attending. And then, like I mentioned before, there will be a follow-up. This webinar has been recorded, so the presentation slides and the recording will be sent out in a follow-up, along with answers to those questions that you guys asked. So if you have any questions about any of this, here's Mark's email here. If you want your facility to be a part of the Sustainable Spirits program, we're always looking for new facilities to come and join. So like I said, there will be a follow-up. We appreciate everyone's time, and everybody have a great week.